to get your paints wet. That's the first step.
And I have my large glass of water here. I'll just try to remember not to drink from it. So did everybody get a chance to get outside yesterday?
Yes, it was beautiful and warm.
So beautiful, wasn't it?
All right, so for anybody that wasn't here,
Yes.
we did last week, let me hold it up and show you. We did the sky.
Okay.
This was a wet on wet technique, so get this all wet.
Okay.
Choose your blues.
Okay.
And drop them in.
Okay. We can.
Your mountains we're going to save because that would be next to the sky and they'll run into one another. So the only thing wet on wet right here is the sky.
Okay.
Then we did the little cottages.
Okay.
And I did the roofs red, a little darker red than the first one, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
I like the darker red. And then I did the faces with this yellow tone.
Okay.
And the windows and doors brown. And this is all done dry.
Okay. Okay, so wet
and
on
then the
wet.
mountains will save. So we're going to start today with the water, which let me get my legend. It's got a number. The water is number 13. And it doesn't have to be done in any special order. The most important part is keeping the wet on wet areas away from other areas until they dry. That's really the key. Make sure you have a practice piece to test your colors on.
Oh dear, I forgot that bit.
Do we have everybody?
I think I'm missing Deepti.
Okay.
I have Kevin, Verilyn, Bridget, Ashley, and I don't know if Kate is there. And Lucy. No, and Lucy.
Lucy's here.
Yeah, Lucy's here. So the only one I think I'm missing is Deepti.
Okay. Is it 10:30? Should we start?
Oh yes, it is 10:30.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So the water, I want you to mix up depending what you're doing. But if you're doing the sky right now, that's fine. You can do the sky and then come to the water. The water we're going to do wet on wet. So you're going to wet your paper in this section. It's number 13 on your legend. You're going to have, the colors are going to be darker. What's that? The colors are going to be darker closer to you and a little bit lighter further away from you. It's very hard to see my pencil lines on this, but let me put some water on the paper. And I'll show you what, I'm going to mix up a couple different blues. I want a lighter blue and a darker blue. I started playing around with it this morning. I'm going to use a round brush. And always start light. You can go dark, but you can't go light. So always start light. I'm going to use a bigger brush for applying the water because you want to work somewhat quickly. I'm going to hold my paper up here. And I'm going to add my water. If you have a hard time seeing the water, you can tint your water a light blue so that you can see where you've laid it down.
Oh,
Are you mixing
Remember to
colors
tape your
to get
paper
to the
down.
blue?
I didn't tape mine down because it's part of a palette. They're all connected to themselves, but if your paper is not connected, make sure it's taped down, it will buckle. All right, I have water. I'm going to start adding some blue. And I'm going to start light. You can always darken it. I'm going to work from the bottom up. And I'm just adding a very light layer right now.
so you're using a round brush, is that correct?
I'm using a round brush.
Okay.
And I don't know that you can see this. I'm going to hold it up. I've added a very, very light layer of blue. Very light.
It's very hard to see. Oh, there we go. You can actually, you can see the wet more than you can see anything. That looks
That's how light the color is.
okay.
I'm going to go back and I'm going to add some darker. Again, working from the bottom of the paper towards the top. So I'm going to make some darker blue now.
So part of my paper is sort of getting dry again. Do I re-wet it or something?
You don't have to re-wet it. Just make sure you're using a good amount of water with your paint.
Okay.
Because if you re-wet it, it's going to give a different look than the rest.
Okay.
So I'm dragging some of this paint over to the other side of the river now. I'm leaving some light spots where the sun would be reflecting. And you do work rather quickly when you're doing wet on wet. And I'm going to go back with one more round of dark. I'm just kind of dabbing it in and then dragging the color across and then upward also. I'll hold this up and show it to you in a minute. And it's okay to have the pure white spots because those could be reflections. I'm going to do a little bit more dark on the bottom here in spots. Because when you're painting, you want light values, you want medium values, and you want your dark values. That's what draws the eye. And I'm ever so lightly touching my paper. Gonna kind of blend in now where the lines are too definitive. I'm gonna blend it a little with just some water, not too much water. And I think I'm just gonna leave it alone. I can always go back when it's dry and mess around with it. But for right now, whoa, for right now I'm gonna leave it. Let me show you. Can you see that?
Nice.
How's everybody doing? Okay? And you can see that okay?
Yep.
Good.
So the way you've done it, Susan, is it's almost sort of gray towards the top.
Top. Mm-hmm.
So did you blend any black or something into
No
your
black,
blue?
just blues.
Okay, just blues.
A dark, a medium, and a light. And I worked from the bottom of my paper here to the top.
Okay.
So I'm going to wait till everyone's done with that. And then we're going to mix up some greens and do our tree line.
Some greens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we want a nice light green, medium green, and a dark green, of course, starting with the light. And we're going to do the tree line. We're going to do it different than this one that I did. I don't really particularly care for this one, but that's okay. It was the first one. You never like the first one. So I'd like to do the greens darker and a little richer. These are a little too grass green for me. I want more of a forest looking green. I'm going to soak up this blue and get rid of it. I actually could probably use some of it for my green.
Paper towels really are a great invention, aren't they?
Yes, paper towels are wonderful for watercolor. All right, so I'm going to just mix your blue and your yellow. If you have a green already, you can use that. Most importantly, you just want to start light. We can always go dark.
Ooh. This one got a little too electric. I got a very nice, but it's a super electric kind of green.
Like a lime.
Yes. Not so much for this particular project, I think.
Now, those of you who weren't here, did you paint your sky yet today?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so you have your sky. Let's save your little cottages for last, because the greenery that we're going to do now is going to be wet on wet. So we're going to have to wait till this green dries before you do these. But that's okay, because we'll do the foreground next. And having a hair dryer is always a very useful tool. Many times if I'm being impatient and I want to keep working, just take the hair dryer and dry your section.
So where's the wet on wet that we're doing now?
It's going to be section on the legend. It'll be section 12.
Which one is that? I don't have my legend with me.
Okay, here, let me show you. It's behind the cottages.
Okay. So it's
here. It's this dark tree line.
Okay.
Next to the mountains.
Okay.
But the cottages are in front of it.
Okay, and that's a darker green?
It's going to be a darker green.
All right.
So we're going to start just with some water, and you're going to have to work pretty quickly. This is a big section, and you have to do the whole thing together. You can't do it piece by piece because the paint knows where it's been. So I'm using just some water with a little bit of green in it so I can see where I'm painting. My water. You have to be careful around the rooftops.
Yes, you do.
All right. So now I'm going to start with a light green, and I'm just going to drop some color in there. This would be the tree line that you would see in the horizon. So it's really just going to have some darks, some mediums, and some lights.
So you're saying the light one on top?
We're always going to do light first. I'm just dropping in, I'm dabbing it in. And because the paper's wet, it's kind of flowing where it chooses to flow, and that's fine. So it's a light green I'm working with, just to get a base layer of color here. Okay, so that's one color. Next.
So it's really more dabbing than stroking, isn't it?
It's more dabbing than stroking, because trees in the horizon, they do look more, it's a more organic shape, but if you squint your eyes and you look at the horizon, ever if you're driving, they're kind of little pockets of colors, darks, lights, mediums, and they're usually, and it's green unless it's autumn, and then they're beautiful and colorful.
And right now, because all of the maples are blooming, it's red.
Yes, they are.
I love that spring. You know, you're just sort of looking up and you can see all of the trees.
So now I'm going to take I darkened my color a little bit. I'm going to do the same technique. I'm going to let the paint go where it may. Okay, so that's 2 layers. Let me show you closer. Can you see that?
See there. Okay. Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to go darker. I'm going to make a darker green and do the same technique. I'm just dabbing the color in.
Shoot.
What happened?
What's that?
What happened?
You know where you were talking about the roof line?
Yeah, you just have to be very careful around your roof line. But you know something, use your paper towel. It'll suck up the color. Okay, so I've got the dark greens and I want to show you. I'm going to go around and I'm going to soften now. Do you see how they look real polka dotty?
Yes.
I don't want them to look like that. I want to go around and soften a little, and I want to bring the green right up to the mountain line instead of having that white space there. So I'm just going to use a dry brush. And I'm going to spread my color out a little bit and soften in spots. And then I still may go back with a darker green once I soften this.
So you're using a dry brush now?
I'm using a dry brush.
Okay.
I'm just kind of pushing the colors towards the mountain line to where the white shows. And on my roof line. I'm going to go back with a little bit of a darker green and add some more, a couple more dark spots. Very lightly. The paper is still wet enough that it's accepting the paint nicely. How's everybody doing? Okay?
So far, so good.
Good.
Oh, shoot. Dang it.
Lavender. I'm going back and darkening spots. Not everywhere. I want that nice rich green of a tree line. It's better, but think I'm gonna leave it alone because I'm getting crazy. Let me show you.
Ooh. Nice.
So you want your darks, you want your mediums, and you want your lights.
This is not quite as easy as you make it look.
No, it's not easy. I agree with you. You know what it is? It's just practice is really all it is. Now everyone's paper should be pretty wet. My river is pretty dry. I think we can paint this foreground section. It would be number 10.
Okay.
And it's just going to be a grassy meadow color. So we're going to make it a yellowy green, green yellow,
Okay.
something light. And I think we can do that right next to the water. Everything else is pretty wet. I thought what we could do is we could also paint some lavender while we're waiting for sections to dry. We don't have to paint it in a pot. I'll show you some lavender I've painted. I've painted a bunch of them.
Ooh.
So I did that one. That's my
Okay.
favorite. I did this one, not my favorite. Like I said, I usually paint things multiple times to get it right or to get it where I like it.
Mhm.
And then this was just, this could be a little note card.
Sure.
So you could actually, we could paint some lavender as if we just picked it out of the garden, threw it on the table and just paint a little bunch. They do make note cards that you can purchase already folded watercolor paper with envelopes, which are always fun. This is just a piece of paper I had, but I thought while we wait for everything to dry on our landscape, maybe we'll just mess around with some purple and some greens
Okay.
and paint a little bunch of lavender.
So you want to do that now and not do the foreground with the grassy meadow?
Let's do the foreground with the grassy meadow. Then we're going to have to let this sit unless you have a hairdryer because the dark green is really, really wet.
Yeah.
So that's got to sit. But yes, let's do the meadow really quick.
Okay. And is that wet on wet as well?
That can be wet on wet as well. And I would mix up a pretty grass green, not this dark forest green we've been using, more of a grass green.
Which number is that?
This is going to be number, hold on a minute, let me get my legend. Number 10. And we're going to do that wet on wet again. I'm going to turn my paper sideways. With, oops, paper with wrong color. I'm going to wet my paper. And now I'm going to add the color. My paper's wet. And it's a yellowy green. That's my color I'm going to use. And I'm going to add the yellow. Oops, way too much yellow. That's what I get for not testing my color. So we get down. Spread it out. And I'm going to go back with the green. I've got a hair in my paint. I'm trying to pick up. Maybe not. Okay. Leave it alone for right now. Let me show you that. You see that okay? Yep. Okay, so we need to let this dry now. Or hair dryer option. If you have a hair dryer, you can go dry it. So if you have a small piece of watercolor paper, nothing large. How's it going? A lot of good?
Yeah, I think so. You are right about this being a game of patience.
It is a game of patience. Am I parking? What's right here? Whoa, 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 whoa. Everybody simmer down. So remember when you're painting, there's a rough side of your paper and a smooth side of your paper. You want to make sure that you're painting on the rough side. So for your lavender, the first thing you want to do is have a couple different greens. We're going to forget the pot. We're just going to do some lavender like we just picked it and it's laying on the table. And you can use, if you still have the green on your palettes, you can use the greens that we did for that tree line. And you want a pretty small brush. Let's say this is a round 6. I'm going to test it out and see what I think about it for making the stem of the lavender. That's perfect. If you can see that line right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's perfect. You don't need anything crazy. And I'm just going to, on my paper, I'm going to hold my paper sideways, and I'm just going to draw some green stems. Some can be darker, some can be lighter, some can be longer. And this can be just an exercise in practice. This doesn't have to be anything crazy.
So, you know, lavender stems are kind of almost gray.
Yes, they are gray. You're absolutely right.
And would you then, to make that gray, would you put some black in your green? Or what
You would have to water that black down ever so lightly.
Yes, I can imagine you would.
It's such a strong color, it's very hard to work with.
Yes.
So you just want some stems, just so we can play around while we wait for our little cottage to get drier. So then you're going to need 3 nice values of a lavender. And we're going to start light. We always start light. I'm going to get rid of all this green here. And that is way too dark. Start with just a very light lavender color. I'm going to use a bigger brush for this. I'm going to use my 6. Let me show you what we did here. So what you're going to do is you're going to, with your light, you're just going to dab around on each stalk. Just dab that light color all around until you've got a nice smattering of this very light violet.
So with the palette that we have, what would you make the violet with? Ooh.
With your red and your blue.
Okay.
You have phthalo blue, correct?
We have the Prussian blue, and then we have something that's called like sea blue or something.
Nope, use your Prussian then.
Okay.
And with your very light, ever so light violet, you're just going to take that brush and make all these little dab marks. They can overlap onto another.
Ooh, this was way too dark. Dagnabbit.
Add water.
Yes.
Some can be taller. The beautiful thing about nature. You're basically just kind of, it's almost like a little scribble. Some dots and a scribble. All right, there's my lavender, the base. All right, now I'm going to go with a little bit of a darker color. And I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to dot it in, more of a dot. But not everywhere. You want to leave your lights. So much of watercolor is just layering.
Yeah.
Color upon color upon color. And as you can see, it's starting to take some shape now that we're adding a medium on there. All right, so we have our two colors, and now I'm going to go back with the really dark and do the same thing. Just in spots, not everywhere.
Hmm.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that I got it a little too wet.
Okay, mine's a little too wet too, actually, but that's okay because I'll go back with a third dark, a fourth dark color, and add that on top to really highlight it. Like you can see right over here, this side, this is really way too wet.
Yeah.
This is better. It's taking better shape. But it's all fixable. Happy accidents, as we call them. And this is just for fun, just to learn something else while we wait.
Oh dear. You ever been to Provence?
Where?
Provence in France, where they have
Never.
the lavender fields?
Oh gosh, I can just imagine.
Oh my
Absolutely
God, it
gorgeous.
is absolutely stunning. I mean, it's just like, whoa.
I think we have a lavender farm here in Jersey.
We do?
I haven't been there in a
Oh,
long,
you know
long,
what?
long
I know
time.
exactly where it is. It's down near Lawrenceville. You
I'm gonna
pass
go back with my dark, dark violet and add just some dots here and there. And ever so lightly, I'm touching the paper.
Mm.
How's it going?
So far, so good.
Not so good, did you say?
So far, so good.
Oh, so far so good. Okay.
Fortunately, I had to mix new lavender midstream, and I can see they didn't come out quite the same color.
That's okay. Just add it to all of them equally. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right, so mine's okay. Sometimes I paint this and it looks great, and sometimes I paint it and it's just okay. That's just the way it is. But let's check on our little cottage and see how we're doing over there in that department. All right, so we're doing better. So I think we can paint. I'm going to go get on.
Yeah, mine is nice and dry.
Is yours dry?
Well, dry-ish.
Okay, we want next to this river here, we're going to do this foreground.
Okay.
So it needs to be pretty dry because it's going to touch the
Yeah,
mountains.
the river is completely dry.
Okay, good. All right, I'm going to just get some clean water
Yes, so am I.
and a new paper towel. All right. So I've got some clean water, new paper towel. I'm going to get rid of the purple because we don't need any purple.
So Susan,
Yes.
my sky and the river are almost exactly the same color.
So you can change that up.
How would I go back and fix that? Because
What I would do is I would do it in the sky. I'd leave the river the way it is.
Okay.
I would go back and add a layer of water
Okay.
over your sky and add in some darker blues.
Okay.
All right, so let's work on this area that meets. So I have a lot of yellow in there, which is very pretty. So let's mix up some yellow and some green, which is going to make a natural blue. No, the blue and the yellow are going to make the green, sorry. And then we'll do these two shrubs. This is going to be a bush and this is going to be a bush. We're going to do that last. That's let me tell you the numbers we're doing. We're doing number 9. And then 11 we'll do last.
Okay.
So let's do the 2 number 9s, and I'm going to do that wet on wet.
And the 2 number 9s are those the little grassy areas?
Yep, they're the little grassy areas.
Okay, so yellow plus blue.
Yeah, let's do a little puddle of yellow. And then let's make some green. And we don't want a dark green like we did our tree line. We want a grassy green, a springy green. Always test your colors.
And is this wet on wet again?
We're
Or
going to do wet on wet again, yes.
Okay.
Always starting light and working dark. I'm going to get my paper wet. When you're wetting such a big section, this is a good time to use a bigger round brush if you have it. Right next to the river is going to be the green. And then we're going to drag it up and add yellow to it. So we have two sections that we're wetting here. All right, I think if you hold your paper to the side, you'll be able to see what you've wet and what you haven't. It looks glossy, is how you can tell. It's got a gloss to it, the water.
so you really do have to use quite a bit of wet.
You do.
I think I made that mistake in the beginning. I was afraid to make it too wet.
Okay. So I'm going to start with my green.
Down by the river?
Down by the river. Down by the river. Go light. You can always go dark. I'm going to hold my paper sideways and I'm going to bring some green. And we want this green to be totally different than the green that we used for the tree line. And you have to have a nice puddle of it because we're doing a large area. So I'm just dragging the paint across on the bottom right next to the river. And then as I move up, I'm kind of dabbing. Right next to the house, I'm going to keep it green because I made my house yellow and I don't want it to, the yellows to compete with one another. And as I add my yellow, I am just kind of mixing it in with the green in a circular motion. I'm going to mix up some more green. Same colors, just make it a little bit darker so we can have some interest to this.
I have a question. Will last week's
Yes.
class be on YouTube? Because I missed it and I didn't get to finish the other one.
I
Yes,
believe it
yes,
is.
they have been recorded, yes.
Okay, I
Perfect.
didn't find, okay, so it is on there because I found the week before, but I didn't see last week's.
I can send you the link. I send it to Deepti as well.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. For
I want to finish my other painting.
Nice. Okay, so I'm just dabbing some greens and some yellows. And we have two more areas that have to be painted. And they're meant to be bushes. Let me show you. It's this little section and this little section. And I don't want to do it just yet because this is pretty wet and it's all going to flow to become one, and we don't want that. Morning. I'm going to mix up these two bushes that are left. I'm not going to do these wet on wet because I want to control the paint and I don't want it to flow into this foreground area that we just did. I'm going to mix up another green and it's going to have a little bit of blue in it. Too much, maybe not. I'm going to test this out on some paper. See what I think about it.
So what kind of green did you have in mind? Like a blue?
A green blue. Can you see that? We want it to be totally different than everything we've painted.
Okay.
And I think that'll be totally different. And what I wouldn't mind doing after this dries is going back in these areas. Now, I didn't do this in my first painting. In these two areas, this area that we just painted and this area. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't mind going back with some orange later when it's dry, a little drier, and adding some orange dots almost to indicate like poppies.
Oh,
I think that would be very interesting. It's a little bit boring to me. So that's the finished one. I think that would look really pretty with some orange poppies in there.
yeah.
All right, so I've made this greenish blue. I'm going to test it again. I want it to be totally different than the green in our tree line and this green in our foreground. And it is pretty different. It's a greenish blue,
So
more
is
green than
Is
blue.
it really more blue than green?
More green than blue, but you can definitely see that it's a different color. It's got some, I would call it green blue rather than blue green.
Okay.
All right, and I'm going to use a small brush, a smaller brush, and I'm going to paint this on dry because we don't want it to flow into our other sections. I'm going to start at the top where the tree line is because I know that's dry. And go ever so carefully next to the cottage. And ever so carefully next to the foreground. And it is a totally different color, which is great. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to do the other side, which is a bigger section. I'm going to mix some more paint really quick. I don't think I mixed enough. And it doesn't have to be exact. And I'm going to go paint this in too with a small brush, dry. And once you paint a section, leave it alone. Don't go back over it. The paper knows. And it will leave a mark. Now I'm painting right next to, but not, I'm leaving a little bit of a white line next to that foreground we just painted so it doesn't bleed, but I'm going to go back and blend it after.
What?
Okay, so we have a very flat green area, which is okay for right now. Can you see that okay? But I'm going to go back with some darker green and add some highlights. Julia, don't let the dogs out. A tree guy's coming to take down a tree. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go back with some dark. And I'm going to add it not to where the top of the bush meets the tree line, but I'm going to add it down at the bottom. And I'm just dabbing it in ever so lightly with my brush. And same on this side. I'm not going to do the top. I'm going to do on the bottom. I don't know who is here in a van. And I'm just kind of dabbing this on. Let me show you. Can you see that?
Yes.
And there, I've left some light spots. I haven't gotten too close. I'm going to go back when this is a little drier and have it meet the foreground, but I don't want it. I don't want to touch yet because it's a little wet. And you can see it flowed right into it there, which I can pick that up with a paper towel, a corner of a paper towel.
Oh dear, I have the same problem.
Just take the corner of your paper towel and dab it over it.
Yep.
And it'll pick it right up.
That was a tad optimistic.
In a van? They have a big truck. What's everybody doing? Shh. Hey. Shh. So with the dry brush, I'm going back and meeting the foreground and covering that little bit of white area. No, they can't go out unless they're on the leash right now. You know what? They can't go out. Are you going to watch them? For a minute. Okay, Mark's back there with the tractor. Bad things happen to little dogs and tractors. They'll be fine. All right, simmer down. Oh my gosh. So I'll take them out when I'm done. Get down. I'm going back and adding some darker spots to this bush on the right, bushy area. Really. Just with any area, you want your darks, you want your lights, and you want your medium. My bush on the right, I like much better than my bush on the left. Can you see that okay?
So you
See,
feel
this
that the
one has-
bush on your left sort of got a little too dense?
This is just too blah. It needs your dark, medium, and your light, and it really has a dark and it has a light, but it doesn't have those spots of medium. I'm going to try to take a paper towel and dab some color away. This one I like though. This one's got this has value to it. It's got your darks, it's got your mediums, and it's got your lights.
Mm.
I have wash in there.
In the washing machine?
I do.
Is it washing?
It should be done. Can you see that okay? Excuse the interruptions. When everyone's asleep here, it's really nice. Then people come to life and they have questions. So I'm going to go back with my paper towel and try to remove a little bit of color out of this one, which it might be too late. No, it's not too late. But that still didn't fix it. I still don't like it. I'm going to go over it with some paint, try to fix it.
It's Mark and Laura.
Oh, they're getting some mulch. I think all my clothes can go in the dryer, Julia.
In the dryer?
Yes.
Are you sure? I don't want to hear about it.
Okay. All right. You know, Julia. Oh my gosh.
What?
You know, everybody can hear what you're saying. I don't want to hear about it. I'm glad you're not cursing at least.
Well, you know what? I can hear everything you're saying while I'm sleeping.
I'm sorry.
Well, you know, I mean, you do want to make sure that your precious cashmere doesn't go in the dryer.
You know what? I'm very picky about what goes in the dryer and what doesn't.
Well, I will say that I remember the time when my darling husband put my cashmere in the dryer.
No, you can't put it on cotton because not everything's, no, I want it low. Oh, dear Lord. Okay, look at my bush. I kind of fixed it.
Yep.
I went back and added some darks
Okay.
and it looks better than it did. Can you see that okay?
Yep.
So
Something
how are you
I've
guys
noticed-
feeling about this?
Something I've noticed is it's when you look at it and you go, ew, this looks terrible, and then you go back, it's very forgiving.
It
You
is
can fix
forgiving,
it very easily.
which is
And
nice.
that's kind of a nice feeling because you know that if you don't like it at first, you can just keep working on it and just get it
Absolutely.
to at least to a point where you like it, even if you don't love
Especially
it.
if you start light. The key is
Yeah.
work light and go dark. And it's really the layering is what is such a beautiful thing with watercolor. It's the layers of color upon color that really make it pop.
So I didn't do the mountains yet. What are they wet on wet and a sort
They're
of
wet on
lavender?
wet, and we worked from the bottom up.
Okay, and they are
And
lavender.
I even left the tops very light, if not white. They could indicate snow. It could indicate the sun shining on it.
Okay.
And here, when I did the wet on wet, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that I left a space dry?
Yes.
Not on purpose, by accident, but I liked it. So that's our little country cottage with a bunch of different techniques.
Oh, what fun. And the foreground of the houses are sort of a yellow, a warm yellow brown kind of.
Where? Here? We just did that.
No,
Oh, the faces?
I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that
This-
looks nice,
this-
Lotta. Good job. That looks really nice.
Oh, thank you.
The faces, I made a yellow color,
Okay, the faces, sorry, that's the word.
but a different yellow than we've used.
Yeah, it's a sort of a more warm,
Yes.
like an Italian yellow.
And I made the roofs redder than my original one. That's the original,
Okay.
and this is redder.
Oh my goodness, they're so different. Look at
So
that.
Can you just Can you go through the colors again? Because I have to do those same ones that she does.
Okay, so
And I
this
can't
was
find
my
my pencil.
original.
Ah,
This is kind of like a very light pinkish color, and the roofs are kind of a, I don't know, a very light brownish
I
red,
had a pencil.
very
Okay.
light. This is the one I've done with you guys. I made them much redder.
Yes.
The faces are very yellow, like a very warm yellow, and then do a swipe under your roof line to
Uh-huh.
indicate a shadow, like the sun's shining right on these two sections.
And did you paint the faces of the houses first and then put in the windows and the doors?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and totally dry on dry this technique here.
Okay.
Nothing wet. And you have to work, make sure you have enough paint because you do have to work kind of quickly. The paper remembers, you have to quick do it.
To me, that's actually the big bit, is to make enough paint. You think, oh my God, I have so much paint. And then you're really thinking, well, I don't really have that much paint.
Yeah, you need a nice puddle.
Yes. All right.
So you guys have to show me some of your work if it's dry enough to hold up. And like I said, I wouldn't mind trying this again and doing a bunch of flowers in the field. Oh, that's gorgeous. I
Oh my
love it,
goodness, Bridget, look at
Oh
you.
my gosh, you guys are so good. I love it, Verlyn.
Bridget,
These
it's
are
beautiful.
beautiful.
And this is, that's me.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. These are great.
This is really quite addictive, isn't it?
Obviously, mine's not finished yet.
I love it though.
Oh,
You've
nice.
got, you've
Oh,
got
that's
nice colors.
great. Those are great colors.
Yeah,
They're
you've got
beautiful.
nice 3 separate colors, which that's probably the hardest part, I think,
Yes.
is mixing color. It's some,
Right.
oh, that's beautiful,
Oh, look
Ashley.
at
Oh my
that.
goodness.
my gosh.
Ashley. Oh my God, look at
That's
that.
gorgeous.
That is stunning.
Thank you.
That's
It's too wet for me
frameable.
to move. It has a bunch of water pools all over the place.
That's okay. Let them dry. That's okay. Let
It's
them
so
dry, and you
pretty.
can always go back with a, not, I don't want to say a dry brush, but just an ever so lightly wet brush, and you can
Oh,
kind of
look how
blend.
pretty.
That's cats.
I love
Oh, that is lovely. You know, isn't it great the way everybody's came out
it.
different?
Yes, and everyone has a
love
different
that.
interpretation, which is what is the most, it's so fun to see how everybody interprets it. But I think this would be really fun to create the foreground into field of flowers.
Mhm.
So that's something I think I'm gonna do one more time and just create like orange poppies everywhere here. I think it'd be really pretty, maybe like orange and reds, just polka
then
dots.
it
And I
would-
don't know if it's something I would do wet on wet, because I think doing it wet on wet, they would fade too much.
Yeah, I think
So
that's
maybe just ever so, just slightly damp. So that's something I want to experiment with in this little cottage. You guys have the copy. You can do it over and over and over again and change it. Change it from
Yeah.
fall to spring to. you
Oh,
can
that's a great idea.
Yeah, you could do it all different ways.
okay. I will make sure to put this to put the recording on YouTube so that you can all see it and
everyone
last-
can catch
last
up.
week-
Yes. Yes, so this is our last class, so maybe
I
once
know. So
it went
hopefully we
really
can do this.
fast.
Would you be up for doing something after Easter, Susan?
I would love to. Yes,
Okay.
I would do another
Alright.
session.
yes, I would love to.
I would love. I'm so in.
I
I'll
would,
work
I am
on it.
too.
I'll work on
Okay.
some new stuff that we can do, some fun, but doable, somewhat easy that we can muster up together.
Well, and now, of course, we're getting into the fun nature season where there's all kinds of colors out there that you were dying to put in.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you.
This was
Susan.
fun. I love this, the
was
lavender.
great fun.
Lavender
Ooh,
is really fun.
nice.
I've painted it, as you can see, a gazillion times.
Let me see
And,
yours, Rich. Oh, pretty. I
Oh,
love
it's
it.
beautiful.
Oh,
Look how
nice.
pretty.
Look how nice. That's great.
That was fun.
Yeah, and I love the lavender. Good job, everybody.
All righty. Well,
And Lotta, do you know Kevin's watercolor palette came missing a blue,
it
but he got
did?
an extra red.
Oh, well, I can
So-
fix that. Which one are you missing, Kevin?
Well, he may have come,
Yeah, we can't, we got it. I have the new one.
Oh, you have it.
but you might want to send that other one back.
Yes.
I'm sure Dix will give you a new one.
Oh, yeah. And actually, Kevin, I have an extra palette, so you can just tell me which blue you're missing. There was a dark one, and then there's the Prussian blue.
I think he got it. I think he came and swapped it out.
Okay, perfect. All right.
I have the new one.
And then I'll send the other one back. and
Yeah, I
say
just
this
wanted you to know so you can send the other one back because I'm
Yeah.
sure Dix will gladly return it for a proper one.
I'm sure they will. All right. Well, thank you,
Manufacturing
everybody.
error.
Have a wonderful Easter. I will coordinate with Susan about doing our next round of sessions, and I hope to see you again very
All right,
soon.
bye, everybody. Thanks for
Bye,
coming.
everybody.
It was
Thank
big
you very
fun.
much for
Thank
today.
you.
Thank
This
you
was
so
fun.
much.
Happy painting.
Happy
Thank
painting to
you.
you as well.
Bye, Lotta.
Bye, everybody. Take care. Have a good one.